I stood over a Saudi princess chained to the floor of a locked room inside the royal palace in Riyadh because she refused to take off a small wooden cross hidden beneath her abaya, and I was the one who put those chains on her wrists. But when I grabbed the cross to rip it from her neck, something seized my entire body, a force I had never felt before, and it threw me backward onto the marble floor while 3 royal guards beside me stood frozen and shaking with their mouths open. Have you ever been so certain that you were punishing evil that you never once considered you might be standing in the presence of something holy? My name is Nasser Ibrahim Al-Qahtani. I am 28 years old, and on November 14th, 2021, I chained Princess Rania bint Khalid to the floor of a private detention room inside Al Yamama Palace in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, because she would not remove a cross from her body. I had no idea that the Jesus she clung to that night was about to shatter everything I believed about power, about God, and about myself. I was born in the Al Nasim district of eastern Riyadh, in a narrow house with green shutters that sat so close to the Imam Turki ibn Abdullah Mosque that the Fajr call to prayer rattled the dishes in our kitchen cabinet every morning. The streets of our neighborhood smelled of fresh flatbread, cardamom from the coffee vendors, and dust that never settled. My father, Ibrahim Saleh Al-Qahtani, was a senior instructor at the Institute of Islamic Jurisprudence and an advisor to the Committee for the Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice. He was not simply devout. He was the kind of man whose faith shaped the behavior of everyone around him. My mother, Huda, wore the full niqab even when only family was present and led Quran study circles for women every Thursday evening. The sound of women reciting Surah Maryam in our living room is one of the first memories I carry. My father taught me from the time I could understand words that Christians were the most dangerous kind of deceiver. He said they did not carry swords, but they carried something worse. They carried shirk, the unforgivable sin of associating partners with the one true God. He told me the cross was an idol, that anyone who wore it or bowed before it was committing the highest form of blasphemy. By 15, I believed every word. By 17, I had joined a youth enforcement committee in our district that monitored foreign workers for signs of secret Christian worship. We reported maids who hid crosses in their luggage. We flagged drivers who kept small Bibles beneath their seats. I once turned in an Ethiopian cleaning woman who had a picture of Jesus taped inside her locker. She was deported within 5 days. I felt nothing but satisfaction. I had no idea that the same God those workers whispered to in their tiny rooms was already preparing to meet me face to face. I had no idea that the God those workers prayed to was already watching me and already preparing a night that would bring me face down on a marble floor, weeping like a child. By 23, I had earned a degree in security administration from King Saud University. I was recruited into the Royal Guard Division and assigned to the Internal Compliance Unit responsible for monitoring behavior and religious adherence among extended members of the royal household. I married Yasmin bint Abdul Rahman, the daughter of a retired military officer. She was quiet, devoted, and as committed to her faith as I was. I had everything: a career that gave me authority, a wife who shared my convictions, the respect of my father and my community, a life built entirely on certainty. Ask yourself this question: have you ever built your entire life on something you were absolutely sure could never break? The assignment came on a Thursday evening in late October 2021. My unit commander placed the classified file on the desk between us. Intelligence had confirmed that Princess Rania bint Khalid, a 24-year-old minor member of the royal family, had secretly converted to Christianity. Surveillance had captured encrypted messages between her and a Filipino nurse containing Bible verses. Photographs showed a small wooden cross she wore beneath her clothing. There were records of visits to Christian websites and a digital Bible on a hidden device. My commander said the family wanted this handled quietly. No spectacle, no media, just containment. I was to lead a small team to confront the princess, demand she renounce this path, and confiscate every piece of Christian material. The thought of a Saudi princess wearing a cross beneath her abaya made my blood boil. This was not merely apostasy, this was betrayal of everything our kingdom stood for. I had no idea that the Jesus I was being sent to erase from that palace was preparing to reveal himself in a way so powerful that my entire understanding of God would shatter in a single evening. I selected 3 men I trusted completely. Faisal, a veteran guard who had served the royal household for 15 years. Tariq, a young officer from Jeddah whose father was an imam and who treated every assignment as worship. And Mazen, a quiet intelligence officer who specialized in interrogation. We studied the princess's schedule, mapped her private wing, and identified every camera, servant entrance, and blind spot. Our plan was simple. Enter her quarters during the evening prayer window when most staff would be at the mosque. Confront her. Demand she remove the cross and hand over all Christian materials. If she refused, we would restrain her and confiscate everything by force. I felt completely certain Allah had placed me in this position for exactly this purpose. The night before the operation, I could not sleep. I rose at 2 in the morning and performed the tahajjud prayer, pressing my face to the carpet and whispering to Allah for strength and resolve. But as I prayed, something strange happened. A heaviness settled over my chest that I could not explain. Not pain, not sickness, a weight like an invisible hand pressing against my ribs. I dismissed it immediately. It was nerves, or it was Shaitan trying to weaken me before a righteous act. I finished praying and lay on my back staring at the ceiling until the dawn call filled the room. I barely slept at all. I had no idea that the uneasiness in my chest was not the devil trying to stop me. It was something far greater trying to warn me. Have you ever been so convinced you were defending the truth that you never stopped to question whether your actions were actually righteous? We entered the princess's private wing at exactly 9:15 in the evening. The corridors were dim and silent, lined with polished marble, reflecting golden light from wall sconces. The air smelled of oud and sandalwood. Our footsteps echoed with a sharpness that made the silence feel alive. There was a stillness I had never felt in any part of the palace, heavier than quiet, pressing against my skin like humidity before a storm. We reached their door. Faisal used the override code. The door opened into a sitting room decorated with cream-colored cushions and shelves filled with books. Soft lamplight gave the room a golden warmth, and there she was. Princess Rania sat in a chair near the window, reading. She looked up at us without surprise, as if she had been expecting this moment for a long time. Around her neck, resting against the dark fabric of her abaya, was a small wooden cross on a thin silver chain. She did not try to hide it. She did not stand. She simply looked at me with an expression I will never forget. It was not fear, it was peace. A peace so steady and so deep that it unsettled me more than any resistance could have. I told her why we were there. I told her the family had ordered her to renounce this path and surrender all Christian materials. I told her to remove the cross. She looked directly into my eyes and said, "I cannot remove it. He is real. I have met him. I will not deny him." Her voice was quiet, but it did not shake. I ordered her again. She refused again. She said, "You can take everything from me, my title, my freedom, but you cannot take Jesus from my heart. He found me, and I will not let him go." Her calm made me furious. I wanted resistance. I wanted screaming or begging. Her peace felt like a weapon I had no defense against. I ordered Faisal and Tariq to restrain her. They pulled her from the chair and forced her to her knees. Mazen produced the restraints. I chained her wrists to a metal fixture that had been installed in the floor of the adjoining room, a room designed for exactly this kind of containment. She did not scream. She did not cry. She knelt on the cold marble and she began to pray. Not to Allah, to Jesus, out loud, in a whisper that filled the room like a sound far larger than her voice should have been able to produce. She said, Lord Jesus, forgive them. They do not know what they are doing. Open their eyes. Let them see you the way you let me see you. An elderly Filipino woman who served as the princess's personal attendant stood in the doorway with tears streaming down her face. She clasped her hands and whispered, "Jesus loves you. He died for you, just as he died for all of us." I told her to be silent. I turned back to the princess. I reached down and grabbed the wooden cross to rip it from her neck. That is when it happened. The moment that changed everything I believed about God. The instant my fingers closed around that cross, heat exploded through my hand. Not warmth, heat, like grabbing a piece of metal pulled from a furnace. It shot up my arm and into my chest. I tried to let go. I could not. My fingers would not open. My hand was frozen around the cross. The heat spread from my chest into my shoulders, down my spine, through my legs. My entire body was burning from the inside, not with pain, with something I had no word for, something alive, something aware of me. Then the light came. It did not come from the lamps. It did not come from the windows. It came from everywhere and nowhere at the same time. A golden light that filled the room the way water fills a glass, slowly at first and then all at once. The walls seemed to disappear. The air itself became bright. And in the center of that light, I saw him. Jesus was standing directly in front of me. I was on my knees. I do not remember falling. He was there, not in my imagination, not in a dream. My eyes were open. Faisal was beside me, and I could hear him gasping. Jesus wore white. His face held an expression I had never seen on any human being in my entire life. It was grief and love woven together so tightly I could not tell where one ended and the other began. He looked at the princess chained on the floor. Then he looked at me. He did not speak with sound. The words arrived inside my chest like a second heartbeat. "Why are you hurting the ones I love? I have loved you since before you were born. Stop running. Come to me." I collapsed forward. My face hit the marble. The cross fell from my grip, and I felt it land gently against the princess's chest, as if someone had placed it there. I was weeping. Not quietly. I was crying harder than I had ever cried in my entire life. Every hateful thing I had ever done crashed through my memory at once. The Ethiopian woman I reported, the maids I helped deport, the crosses I had confiscated and thrown into garbage bins, the pride I felt every time I punished someone for loving Jesus. And he was looking at me, not with anger, with a tenderness so vast and so unearned that it crushed something inside me I did not know could break. Minutes could have been hours. I do not know how long I lay on that floor. When I finally lifted my face, Tariq was on his knees beside me, with tears pouring down his cheeks. Faisal was pressed against the wall, staring at the ceiling, whispering something I could not hear. Mazen had fled the room entirely. The princess was still kneeling, still praying, still peaceful. The Filipino attendant knelt beside me and placed her hand gently on my shoulder. She said, "He loves you, son. He has been waiting for you your whole life." Ask yourself this question. How do you explain meeting the living God face to face when everything you were ever taught told you he was dead and powerless? I knelt on that marble floor for what felt like an hour. When I finally stood, my legs were shaking, but my mind was clearer than it had ever been in my life. I looked at Princess Rania. She was looking at me, and she was smiling. Not with triumph, with compassion. I reached down and I unlocked the chains myself. My hands were trembling so badly that Tariq had to help me with the second wrist. I looked at the princess and said the only words I could find. "I am sorry. He is real." She took my hand and said, "I know. He has been calling you for a long time." What happened next changed everything. Over the following weeks, the Filipino attendant, whose name was Grace, connected me with a tiny underground Christian community that met in secret in a rented apartment in the Alolaya district. 12 people in a locked room. Filipino workers, an Egyptian teacher, a Sudanese nurse, and now me, a royal guard who had spent his career hunting people exactly like them. A pastor they called Brother Samuel placed his hand on my head, and I prayed the first real prayer of my life. Jesus, I have been wrong about you. I have spent my whole life hating your people and hurting the ones who love you. But I saw you. I know you are real. I know you are who you say you are. Forgive me for everything I have done. Save me. I surrender my life to you completely. The room erupted with joy. Those 12 strangers embraced me like I was family they had been waiting for. They wept. I wept. Tariq converted that same night beside me. Faisal followed 2 weeks later. I was baptized in secret 5 weeks after that night, in a plastic tub in that same apartment. Brother Samuel poured water over my head, and I chose a new name, Stephen, after the first Christian martyr who forgave his killers while they stoned him. I chose that name because I finally understood what it meant to love the people who were destroying you. Ask yourself this question. If the God you fought your entire life suddenly showed you he was real, would you have the courage to follow him, knowing it would cost you everything? I had no idea that following Jesus would cost me everything I had spent my life building. That is when the second storm hit. I filed a report stating that the princess had been counseled and that compliance was ongoing. It was a lie designed to buy her time. But lies in palaces do not stay hidden. Within 3 months, I was under investigation. The truth surfaced. I was summoned, questioned, and stripped of my position. My father was the first to confront me. He came to my apartment on a Thursday morning. He stood in the center of my living room and looked at me with eyes I did not recognize. His voice was cold, perfectly flat, completely emptied of love. He said, "You are no longer my son. You are dead to this family. You have shamed the name Al-Qahtani in a way that can never be repaired." He turned his back and walked out. He has not spoken to me since. My mother sent me one text message 2 days later. 5 words. "How could you do this?" Then she blocked my number. Yasmin, my wife, found the small Bible I had hidden in my desk drawer. She held it up like it was contaminated. She called me a kafir, an apostate, a traitor to everything sacred. She said she would rather be widowed than married to a man who worshipped a dead Jew on a cross. She filed for divorce and was gone within a week. Former colleagues who once trusted me with their lives sent death threats through messages I could not trace. But I gained everything that truly matters. I gained Jesus Christ. I gained a forgiveness that no amount of prayer or fasting had ever given me. I gained a peace that does not shift with circumstances. I gained a church family in a man who took me in the day I arrived and loved me as family. I gained a purpose that fills every morning with meaning. I learned later that Princess Rania was placed under permanent house arrest. Her public story remains hidden. But the seeds she planted did not die. Grace, the Filipino attendant, was eventually deported but continued her ministry from Manila. And the small cross that nearly destroyed my hand became the symbol that rebuilt my life. Today I live in Amman with my wife, a Christian woman named Lydia, who I met at the church that first sheltered me. She saw a man who had lost everything and loved him without condition. We were married in a small ceremony in that same rented apartment that had become a proper church. Brother Samuel officiated. Tariq and Faisal stood beside me as groomsmen. I wept through the entire service. Over 70 Muslims have accepted Jesus Christ after hearing my testimony. I work now with an underground network reaching believers across the Gulf through encrypted channels, the same methods that once brought the gospel to a princess in a palace. I still send letters to my parents twice a year. I tell them I love them. I tell them about my life. I tell them about Jesus. No response has ever come. I do not know if they read my letters or burn them, but I will never stop sending them because that is what love does. It does not give up. My son was born 8 months ago. The first words he heard were not the adhan. They were a hymn that Lydia sang while I held them both and thanked God for a mercy I will never fully comprehend. I returned to that night in my memory every single day. I stand in the place where I chained a princess to the floor because she would not deny Jesus, and I thank God that she did not break, because her faithfulness broke me instead. I had no idea that the worst night of my career would become the greatest night of my life. Ask yourself this question. If God can reach a man inside a royal palace in the most guarded country on earth, what makes you think he cannot reach you exactly where you are sitting right now? The royal guard who chained a woman to the floor for wearing a cross no longer exists. In his place stands a follower of Jesus Christ who would die before he denied him. Look inside your own heart right now. If he can transform someone like me, someone who chained an innocent woman, hunted believers, and destroyed crosses with his bare hands, then he can absolutely transform you. No matter what you have done or where you come from, the same Jesus who stood in that palace room and stopped me with nothing but light and love is standing before you right now through this very testimony. He is offering you the same forgiveness, the same freedom, the same total transformation that changed everything for me. Jesus is calling you right now. Do not wait for a vision like the one I received. He is already pursuing you. He has been pursuing you since before you pressed play on this video. Will you let him in and discover the love that changes everything?